fashionistas, I'm Sofi. Welcome to my studio. This demonstration is going to be about how to sew a shirt collar. The shirt collar is also called two-piece collar or collar with a stand. As you can see, this shirt collar is out of two pieces. As I said, I'm going to show you how to sew these two pieces together, the base of the collar and the upper collar. How do you prepare them and how you connect them with each other, that later on is going to be connected to the neckline of the shirt. For this project, I'm going to use two pre-made pattern pieces that I'm going to copy on my fabric, cut and sew. I'm going to be using my patterns folded because they're easy to cut like that on folded fabric. For my sample, I'm going to use muslin. You can use any fabric you want to, but whatever the fabric is, first of all, we need to press it to get ready. Well, here I have to place my patterns correctly on the fabric, so I'm looking for the straight grain of it. So my straight grain is here, and as we know, the pattern grain line should be running parallel to the selvage or the straight grain of the fabric. Therefore, I am going to fold my fabric, so when I place my pattern on it, fold to the fold, my grain line matches with the straight grain of the fabric. So we're cutting half of the shape instead of cutting the whole entire perimeter of the pattern. So we cut quickly without wasting too much time and getting both sides of our shape. We're copying the patterns by holding our pencil 90 degrees to the fabric or to the pattern. Clean. You can hold it with something or you can put weight on it. And actually I need to copy my upper collar twice and my base collar twice. The reason we need two upper collars and two base collars because, as you can see here, we have a top collar that we see, an under collar that is hiding under, and the same is true about the base collar. Here is the upper base and under base, or top base, under base. Here I have my upper collar and the base collar cut already. One of the collars, upper collars, which is my top collar, is going to be fused, and one of my base color would be fused. For that, I'm going to use a fusible interlining fabric. So let's cut it. So then I fold my interlining the same exact way as we did with the muslin, and I'm going to cut only one set out of this interfacing. Here I have my ready interfacing pre-cut, and I cut it out of white fabric because initially my muslin is light color, so I'm using light color interfacing. If I had darker fabric, I would use my black interfacing for it. We need to slit notches so we're able to stitch the pieces together properly and correctly. And also, what I've done here, I started creating my textile design in order to have the right side and the opposite side of the fabric, so you can get used to it, because muslin kind of doesn't have those different sides. Okay, this is my top collar, so I'm going to put the fusible, the glue side, touching the wrong side of the piece, like this. And here, this is the right side of the fabric, this is the opposite side, and I am going to put the glue side touching the wrong side of the collar. So again, I am fusing only the top collar and the top base. The other two are not going to be fused. When I fuse it, especially when the piece is like small piece like that, narrow piece, because if I'm not careful when I'm ironing them to each other, I can distort the piece, which is the last thing I want to do. So you start from the center, put the iron right in the middle, steam it, let it go, and instead of ironing, you are pressing pretty much, and you go to the opposite side of the piece. Now let it to rest for a minute. I'm not in a hurry to move it because I can even distort it when I'm really in a hurry. So this is done, and you do the same thing with this one. I'm going to place two pieces touching the right side of the fabric to the right side of the other one, matching the sides, and I am going to pin them to each other. When you pin, your pins should be making small pinches, just like this, at the 1/4 inch line from the edge of the collar, because our seam allowances for collars are only 1/4 inch. And here my notches are matching, and continue. If I make big pinches like this, the fabric will twist and I would not be able to stitch precisely where I need to. So now I'm going to start stitching this, but before I do that, I would like to explain something. So my intention is to stitch 1/4 inch of a seam allowance. I'm going to go on this line when I am at the very corner here. You see, this is my 1/4 inch point. I am going to stitch one diagonal stitch like this, and then continue stitching 1/4 inch to the other side of the collar. So not into a point, but straight towards the corner, one diagonal stitch in the corner, and then continue the other side. So when you come to the opposite point, again, you stop at the corner, one diagonal stitch, and stitch like this, and then finish here. You see, when I get to the corner, I start walking and then stop, do that one diagonal stitch like this, and then continue to the other side. That's my diagonal stitch, and then secure stitch and stop. Let's press the stitch so it blends and mingles with the fabric. Now we're going to clip these corners. I'm going to clip the tip of the fabric about 2 threads away from the corner, because if I don't, all this amount of fabric is going to get into this very tiny corner and it will create like a bulk bead inside of it. So I also need to clip a little bit this way, and also a little bit this way, like this. And then carefully, without forcing too much, you are going to push. I can use either my pencil or a tip of my tips of my shears and push the corner out as much as I can. Again, you shouldn't be aggressive and pushing too much. Another way of going to be pulling with a pin or needle. So the point of the collar will come out, showing that sharp and beautiful corner of the collar. The reason we did that one diagonal stitch in the corner, so this point is not extremely sharp and it doesn't create the bead that I mentioned earlier in this corner. That's why we go straight, diagonal, and straight. Before you start pressing, you need to push the seam out by twisting with your fingers so the seam comes out, and put it flat and press. Otherwise, sometimes we can create unwanted fold right there. So that's why carefully push the seam out, hold it in the place, and press. On casual collars, you always find top stitching on the upper collar or even on the base 1/4 inch away from the edge most of the time. So my intention is to stitch 1/4 inch top stitch on my collar. If I keep the edge of the fabric matching with the presser foot's edge, my needle is going to be stitching 1/4 inch from the edge also. When you come closer to the corner, please walk so you are not zooming through the fabric. And then when you get 1/4 inch away from this side, lift up your presser foot and shift to the other side. It looks like I need to do one more stitch there. Okay, so you see here now. Again, walking. Turn. Now we're connecting the base to the upper collar. Be aware of your top collar. You see, this is my fused side, so this is my top collar. I'm going to put it like that. As you can see, the top collar side looks nice and straight because of the fusing. The other side looks not as straight and crisp. So I am going to place my under collar, which is again fused. When I connect my collars to each other, I have to be aware of this double notch versus the single notch. the single notch is going to be connected with the single notch of the upper collar. Meanwhile, this double notch usually is connected to the neckline of the shirt. Therefore, I am careful about that, because if I put it this way, then my collar is going to be completely wrong. So the single notch to the single notch. So I place the single notched part right here on the single notch of the top collar. You see, this is my fused part, and I have the fused part of the top collar, like that. So our intention is to sandwich the upper collar between the base pieces. So then I place my single notch on top of the single notch of the under base, where I have my upper collar here. You can see sandwiched, the wrong side down and wrong side up right there. So this position. Now let's pin right at the center, again with small pinches, and let's keep on pinning all the layers together. And meanwhile, trying to make the pieces to kind of bend and match, because they have shapes, different shapes. Okay, do with small increments, section by section, like this. So I've pinned all the layers to each other. Now I am double checking to see if I did this correctly, because it can be confusing. I would gently fold it down like this to check and see if I got all right-sided sides of my fabrics out, and like that. So if I did a mistake, I will just unpin it and pin it again, so I do get exactly like this. So I'm going to stitch from here, 1/4 inch to the center, and then to the other side with that curvy line that is going to bind my two pieces to each other. I will do tiny secure stitch back and forth. Now when I'm stitching on this curvy side, in order for me to be able to stitch this side nice and curvy, I am going to walk. You see, like I'm doing step by step, so this curve is nicely done, because you cannot create that kind of small curve by zooming through it. So walk, walk, walk until you get to the straighter part of it. Then now we can smoothly go through the neckline. Because the fabric is thick, there is a chance that your fabric will start kind of like puckering. Gently stretch it. And when I get to the end, I secure stitch back and forth and stop. So I'm pressing my seam to relax, and I'm not crushing the whole collar, because you see, the difference between their curves creates this kind of wave which should be protected, should be kept. So I'm kind of gently going through my seam. And now I just need to clip on the curves, sometimes by even cutting triangular pieces out like this. So when I turn the curvy fabric inside out, these little corners are not puckered on top of each other. And try to clip evenly away from each other, so you have nice and smooth curve instead of broken one. So I smooth out and fix the curves and press my collar flat. Gently pull the base collar so it doesn't create folds right here. Obviously it will be better if I have sleeve board or some other seam roll or another pressing object that I can use to press my collar in portions, just because they have different shapes. They perform differently on their own individually. Therefore, it will be better for me to press it with, like in these small increments, just like this. My design is going to have 1/4 inch top stitch or 1/8 of an inch top stitch on the base also. We're going to do this for a practice, but when I'm actually constructing the shirt, I have to attach the base to the neckline first, then top stitch it. But now I'm top stitching because I want to practice. Here on this ready-made shirt, there is a top stitch on the base collar, which is about 1/16 of an inch away from the edge. We're going to top stitch, let's say 1/8 of an inch. Again, I'm going very slowly at the curve and gradually going to the straight side of my collar, and when I'm here, here I'm applying my last press to my ready collar, and I'm going to cut all the hanging threads. And my collar is ready. This concludes my presentation, and hopefully you learned how to stitch a shirt collar. I am Sofi Kaçmanyan. I hope you enjoyed my demonstration, and if you liked it, go ahead and like it, subscribe for it. I will always come up with new videos for you. See you next time.